Hello and welcome. Today we want to do rounding functions of our IT subject 9626. So we are on page 146. So we are going to be looking at int, round, round up, and round down. So rounding functions. Numbers can be rounded to whole numbers or decimal places. So we are looking at this table 8.3, which is taking us through these four different rounding functions. So we'll explain the int. The int retains the whole number value of a decimal number. Okay, so when we are given a decimal number, we are only going to extract the whole number part. So this type of function actually ignores the comma and all the other values that are coming after the comma. Okay, so whenever we are given a number, that number is just going to be taken the whole number part. So you're just taking the whole number part and ignoring the comma and all the values that come after the comma. Then the round function rounds a number to the nearest decimal place specified. This example rounds the value A2 to 3 decimal places. So we can see from the example which says equals round A2, 3. So we are saying the value that is in the cell A2, can it be rounded to 3 decimal places? So when we're using the round function, we want to know the number of decimal places that you want. Okay. And round up rounds a number to the nearest decimal place specified. So when you are rounding up, you are increasing by 1. So if you are rounding up to 2 decimal places, you are actually moving 2 places. When you get to that point, you only increase that point by 1. Okay? You increase that point by 1. When it's round down now, rounds a number down to the nearest decimal place specified. So we are saying when we are using round down, you move the number of decimal places that have been specified, you stand there and end there. You don't do anything, okay? Because you are rounding down. So let's look at the example that we are given in our textbook, the worked example, and then we can understand it much better. So from this worked example, you can see that we have our original number. So these are the numbers that we have been given. And from these numbers, we are going to calculate the integer. We are going to calculate the round up, the round down. Okay. So now we will make sure that we see the function and the expected answer like that. So we will use these two together. These are the values that came out, and these are the functions. So we'll start with the int. We said the int only extracts, right? It only extracts the whole number part of a number that we have been given. It ignores the comma and every other value that comes after the comma. So let's look at our A2. Our A2 has 25817.32817. So in our B2, we are requested to put the integer. So when we are requested to put the integer, we are going to say equals int because integer. Integer means whole number. So now we want to have the whole number of this. We want to extract the whole number of this, meaning we want to ignore the comma and the values that come after the comma. So our expected answer, if we put this function, should be 25817, and we end there. When we see the comma, we ignore it and every other value that comes there. So you can see that from our answer here, it only took this 25817 and we have our answer there. All these, the comma and the values that are coming after are ignored. Let's look at the second one. So now that we understand the int only extracts the whole number part, it means our answer here should be 3852. We end there. So here, our answer came out is 3852. For this one, we want 928. We end there because we don't want anything to do with the comma and values after. So 928. And then here, it's 0 point. So we don't want anything after 0. So our answer is going to be 0. Okay. So that's for our integer function. Now let's look at the round function. We said this round now is the one that we have been doing from our primary, right? The way we know rounding when we are talking about rounding, okay? The one that we actually do even in our math subject. We are saying round equals round, then the number that you want to round, we always use the reference of the cell that holds that number, right? Comma, the number of decimal places. How many decimal places do you want after that? Right. So, for example, we have this 25817, and we want to round it to 3 decimal places because in our A2, that's the value that's there, right? So we want to round to 3 decimal places. So we are going to move 1, 2, 3, right? So when we get to this point, our normal rounding, we know that you look at the number after, right? If it's 5 and above, this number at position 3 is going to change to the next number up by 1, right? But if it's below 5, then this number remains as it is, right? Meaning this number is 1, so it's below 5. So the answer that we are expecting should have a 0.328 because we are rounding to 3 decimal places, right? So let's look at the answer. This is the answer, 0.328, right? Because 1 could not change 8. Let's look at the second one. A3 to 3 decimal places. This is our A3. 3 decimal places, 1, 2, 3. We look at the number after. The number after is 9. So this 9 is above 5, meaning it will change this 6 to 7. So our answer now becomes a 0.877, right? So we come here, we look at the answer. We are taking our answer, the whole number, we carry it with us. So it's 3852.877. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one we are doing 3 decimal places again. 1, 2, 3. When we get to the third position, we look at the number after. The number after is 1. So 1 cannot change that one because it's below 5. Therefore, our number after the comma is going to be 2, 3, 4. So we look at the answer is 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we carry our whole number and after the comma we put that. Then the last one is rounding as well to 3 decimal places, our A5. So 1, 2, 3 to 3 decimal places. Okay, so we are here. We look at the number after, which is 5. So 5 and above, it will change the value before. So at this point, number 3, we are going to change 2 up by 1. So we have 0.33. Okay, so we are going to have 0.033 is our answer. That's rounding, normal rounding. But when we talk about round up now and round down, this just follows simple rules, right? On round up, you move the number of decimal places you've been required and you just increase by 1. You don't check whether the value after is below 5 or above 5. You don't check that. As long as you are saying round up, it's going to say how many number of places, 1, 2. When it gets to the number 2 position, it just increases by 1. When it's round down, whatever number of decimal places you move, for example, this one is 4 decimal places, so you're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and you extract it as it is. Okay, so let's do examples for round up. Round up A2 to 2 decimal places. This is our A2 to 2 decimal places. That's our decimal place 1, 2. And we said because this is round up, when you get to that position number 2, just increase by 1. So this 2 becomes 3 because it's rounding up. Rounding up says add 1. Rounding up means add 1. Rounding up means add 1, right? So you're adding 1 to the number of decimal places that you've been asked. So if you're moving 2 places, 1, 2, when you get to that position, add 1. So we are saying 1, 2, when we get to this position, we add 1 and it becomes 3. So our answer is after the comma, we have a 3, 3. Then for this one, 2 decimal places again, we are going to say 1, 2. We add 1, it becomes an 8. So after the comma, we have a 8, 8. When we come here, we are going to say 2 decimal places, 1, 2. When we get to that position number 2, we increase by 1. It becomes 4. So after the comma here, we have 2, 4. When we get to this one, 2 decimal places, 1, 2. When we get to that 2, position 2, we increase by 1. This 3 becomes 4. So we have after the comma, 0, 4. Okay, so that's the plain rule on rounding up. Move the number of decimal places that have been required. 1, 2. If it's 2 decimal places, when you get to that position, just add 1 and you are good. And it gives you that answer. Okay. Now round down. Round down, it says it's just going to move the number of decimal places you want and does not do anything, right? It's just going to extract the number of decimal places you want, right? And does nothing. So for this one, we are saying round down to 4 decimal places. So we are saying 1, 2, 3, 4. We end there, we extract it as it is. So the answer will be 3281. This one, 4 decimal places, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we extract as it is, 8769. We have ended there. So after the comma, we should have our 8769, right? This one to 4 decimal places, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the numbers that are there. We need 4, and we are going to take them as they are. So after the comma, we'll have 2, 3, 4, 1, because we want 4 decimal places. Then on the last one, A5, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? When we get to 4, we extract it as it is because it's round down, right? And then we will have 0, 3, 2, 5 after the comma, okay? So this is how the rounding functions work. We have our int, we have our round, we have our round up, and we have our round down, okay? So we can see that we've been rounding to positive values, right? However, we can round to negative values. So what does negative values do on us? So we are going to look at this point, reflection here. What happens if you change the number of decimal places to a negative number? So for example, here, what if you change it to a negative number, -4? What effect does it have? Okay, how does this relate to rounding to significant figures? Notice how -1 rounds to tens. Okay, so this is now the answer to these questions that they are asking. So when you round, if you put a negative, you are saying, I want to put it to the, you are now affecting the values that are before the comma. So if you say -1, it rounds to the nearest 10. If you say -2, it rounds to the nearest 100. If you say -3, it's going to round to the nearest 1000. Okay. The minus number relates to rounding to the power of 10 rather than rounding to the set number of significant figures. Okay, so let's look at another example that is going to show us from Microsoft this table that is showing, and it has negative values, so we can see the effect of having rounding to the negative number. Okay, so as we have said, when we are using round, right, we are going to increase or remain depending on the number of decimal places. If the value after is 5 and above, it's going to increase. If it's below 5, it won't increase. So for example, now we have rounded this number to 1 decimal place. So we are going to say after the comma, we have 1, right? So is 5 above? Yes, we're 5. So this is going to turn our 1 to 2. That's why our result is supposed to be 2.2. And then this one to 1 decimal place again. So 1 is the 1 decimal place we are looking for. And then 4 is below 5. So this one is not going to change. So our answer will become 2.1. This number is a negative number in itself, and we want to round to 2 decimal place because there is a 2 there. So 1, 2. So the number after the second is 5. So 5 is going to change 7 to 8. So our answer is negative 1.48. Then on this one, now we have a rounding to a negative. We have now that rounding to a negative value. And we said if it's negative 1, we are rounding to the nearest 10. If it's negative 2, we are rounding to the nearest 100. If it's negative 3, we are rounding to the nearest 1,000, like that. Okay, so 21.5 to the nearest 10. So we are looking at the units, right? Because this is the 10, right? So we are looking at the units. 1 is below 5, so it will not change 2, so it becomes 20. So we have 0 there, 2, 0. Okay. When we are saying this number to the nearest 1,000, so we are saying we are looking at this value, the 6. Is 6 above 5? Yes, so it's going to change the value after. We don't have anything after, so it means there is a 0. We are going to put a 1, right? So because this 6 is above 5, so it's going to change the nothing to 1. So it's going to be 1, and then this becomes zeros. Okay, so we have 1,000. And on this one, rounding to the nearest 10, we have 1. This is a unit. We don't have any 10, so we're assuming our 10 is 0. Then we look at 1. 1 is below 5, so it's not going to change the 0 to anything, right? So that's why we'll remain with our 0. Okay, then this one is a negative number in itself. So negative 50.55 to the nearest 100, right? So we look at the 10, which is 5. Is 5 and above? Yes, so it's going to turn the nothing into 1. So we are going to have a negative 100. This is the value that we are getting. So this is our rounding functions and their effect and how we should treat them. Okay, and we are just going to conclude by looking at the indices because they are just close. So indices, these are powers. If you want to say to the power of, you can use the function power, or you use the indices symbol. Yes, so we are just saying 6 to the power of 3, which is 6 times 6 times 6. Okay, so this is how you can write it. Either you're saying 6 using the power symbol to the power of 3, or you're using the function power and you put the value in the number you want to raise it to. Okay, so that was it for our rounding functions. Let's meet in the next set. Okay, so it's bye for now.